creepy true jogging horror story. Rachel Morrison had been jogging the Riverside Trail in Portland for 3 years, always at the same time, 5:30 a.m. before work, before the trail got crowded with other runners and cyclists. She loved the solitude, the quiet morning air, the way the pre-dawn light reflected off the water as she ran her usual 5-mile loop. But on Tuesday, October 15th, her routine was interrupted by something that would make her question everything she thought she knew about the world. Rachel started her run as usual, her breath creating small clouds in the crisp autumn air, her running shoes hitting the pavement in a steady rhythm. The trail wound along the Willamette River, mostly flat, with occasional trees providing shelter from a wind. At this hour, she rarely saw another soul, maybe one or two other dedicated early morning joggers, but usually she had the path to herself. She was about 2 miles in, approaching the section where the trail curved away from the river and into a small wooded area, when she first noticed the other runner. He was behind her, maybe 50 yards back, visible when Rachel glanced over her shoulder. A male figure, tall and lean, dressed in dark running clothes. Nothing unusual. Other joggers used this trail. After all, Rachel turned her attention back to her own pace and kept running. But 5 minutes later, when she checked again, the figure was closer, maybe 30 yards back now, still running, matching her pace exactly. Rachel felt a small flutter of unease. She picked up her speed slightly, pushing harder, putting distance between herself and the other runner. For a while, she didn't look back, focusing on her breathing, on the trail ahead, on the sound of her own footfalls. When she finally glanced over her shoulder again, her heart stuttered. The figure was closer, much closer, less than 20 yards away now, despite Rachel's increased speed. And there was something wrong about the way he moved, too smooth, too effortless, as if he was gliding rather than running. Rachel's unease transformed into genuine fear. She pushed harder, her legs burning with the effort, her heart rate spiking. The wooded section loomed ahead, and Rachel debated whether to enter it or turn around and head back toward the more open areas where she might encounter other people. She decided to press forward. The wooded section was only a quarter-mile long, and beyond it the trail opened up again near a residential area. She could make it through. As Rachel entered the trees, the morning light dimmed, filtered by the canopy overhead. Her breathing was harsh now, labored, as she maintained her sprint. She didn't dare look back, but she could hear it. Footsteps behind her, steady and rhythmic, keeping perfect pace. And then she heard something else. Breathing, not her own, but someone else's breathing. Far too close, right behind her. Rachel looked back. The figure was less than 10 feet away. But now, in the dim light filtering to the trees, Rachel could see him more clearly. Or rather, she could see what was wrong about him. His face. His face was wrong. It was pale, almost luminescent in the shadows, and his features seemed blurred, indistinct, as if seen through frosted glass. But his eyes were perfectly clear, fixed on Rachel with an intensity that made her legs nearly give out in terror. And he was smiling, a too wide smile that split his face in a way that no human mouth should move. Rachel screamed and ran harder than she'd ever run in her life, abandoning all thought of pacing or endurance, just pure flight. The trees blurred past her, branches reaching out like grasping fingers. Behind her, she could hear the footsteps keeping pace, never falling behind no matter how fast she ran. The trail curved, and Rachel nearly lost her footing on loose gravel. Catching herself at the last second, she risked another glance back. He was right there, right behind her, his hand reaching out, fingers impossibly long, about to grab her shoulder. Rachel burst out of the wooded section into the open area near the residential neighborhood. Morning light hit her face, and she heard a sound behind her, something between a hiss and a snarl of frustration. Rachel didn't stop, didn't look back, just kept running toward the houses, toward people, toward safety. She finally stopped in someone's front yard, doubled over, gasping for air, her legs shaking. When she could breathe enough to turn around, she looked back at the trail. Empty, completely empty. No sign of the figure, no sign that anyone had been there at all. Rachel pulled out her phone with trembling hands and called 911. The police arrived within 10 minutes, and Rachel gave her statement, describing the man who'd chased her. The officers walked the trail but found nothing. No footprints in the soft dirt near the wooded section. No evidence anyone else had been on that path that morning. "Are you sure you weren't alone, ma'am?" one officer asked gently. Sometimes in low light, shadows can play tricks. "I know what I saw," Rachel insisted. "He was right behind me. I could hear him breathing." The officers promised to increase patrols of the area, but Rachel could see the skepticism in their eyes. They thought she'd panicked over nothing, that she'd let her imagination run wild in the dark woods. Rachel didn't jog the Riverside Trail again for 2 weeks. When she finally returned, this time in broad daylight with her friend Maria for company, she felt ridiculous for having been so scared. The trail looked completely normal, familiar, safe. "You probably just spooked yourself," Maria said as they jogged. Early morning, dark woods. Your mind filled in the blanks and made something scary out of nothing. Rachel wanted to believe that. She wanted to dismiss the experience as imagination run wild, as the officers had suggested. But she couldn't shake the memory of that blurred face, those 2 clear eyes, that too wide smile. A week later, Rachel was scrolling through local news on her phone when she saw the headline, "Woman found dead on Riverside Trail." Her blood ran cold as she read the article. A jogger named Ashley Chun had been found that morning on the Riverside Trail, in the wooded section, dead for what appeared to be cardiac arrest despite being a healthy 30-year-old with no history of heart problems. She'd been jogging alone at approximately 5:30 a.m. Rachel immediately called the police, asking to speak to the officers who'd taken her report. She told them about the article, about the location, about the similar circumstances. "Ms. Morrison, Ashley Chin died of natural causes." The officer said patiently, "There's no connection to your incident, but the same trail, the same time, the same. She had an undiagnosed heart condition. It was just unfortunate timing. There's no evidence of any pursuit or attack." Rachel hung up, unconvinced. She began researching the Riverside Trail, digging into its history, and what she found made her wish she'd never started looking. Over the past 15 years, 6 joggers had died on that trail, all in the wooded section, all in the early morning hours between 5 o'clock and 6 a.m., all officially ruled as natural causes despite being young and healthy individuals. And in online forums dedicated to local running clubs, Rachel found other stories. Runners who reported being chased by a figure they couldn't quite see clearly. Joggers who felt an overwhelming sense of dread in the wooded section and had fled without knowing why. One woman described an experience almost identical to Rachel's, a figure that got closer no matter how fast she ran, breathing right behind her, only to vanish when she reached the open sections of the trail. Rachel contacted some of these people directly. Most were reluctant to talk about it, embarrassed by what they'd experienced, worried they'd be labeled as crazy. But a few shared their stories. "I saw his face," one man told Rachel over the phone, "or I tried to see it. It was like looking at someone through water, blurred, distorted, except for the eyes. God, those eyes. They were so clear, so focused, and they weren't human. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't human." "What do you think it is?" Rachel asked. "I don't know. A ghost? A demon? Some kind of entity that feeds on fear? All I know is that it hunts on that trail in the early morning, when people are alone and vulnerable. And I think when it catches someone, when it gets close enough, It can stop their heart. That's why the deaths look natural. No marks, no violence, just cardiac arrest. But it's not natural. That thing kills people. Rachel reported everything she'd learned to the police, compiled all the stories, all the patterns. They thanked her for her concern, but maintained there was no evidence of foul play in any of the deaths. The trail remained open. Runners continued to use it, and early morning joggers continued to report strange experiences in the wooded section, feelings of being followed, sounds of breathing behind them, glimpses of a figure that shouldn't be there. Rachel never jogged that trail again. She found new routes, always in well-populated areas, always with other runners visible. And she started a blog documenting the stories of the Riverside Trail, warning other joggers about what might be hunting there. Most people dismissed her as a conspiracy theorist or someone suffering from PTSD after a frightening experience. But occasionally, Rachel would receive a message from someone who'd had their own encounter with the figure on the trail. They'd thank her for validating their experience, for letting them know they weren't crazy. And every few years, another jogger would die on that trail, in that wooded section, at that early morning hour. Always ruled as natural causes, always dismissed as coincidence. Rachel knew better. She'd seen what hunted there, felt its presence right behind her, heard its breathing in her ear. She'd escaped, but not everyone would be so lucky, because some things hunt in the spaces between day and night, in the lonely hours when people think they're alone. Some things have learned to blend into our modern world, to take advantage of our routines, our predictable patterns, our vulnerability. The figure still runs that trail at dawn, still chases lone joggers through the wooded section, still smiles that too wide smile as it gets closer and closer to its prey. Most people escape, like Rachel did, running for their lives without fully understanding what they've encountered. But some don't make it out. Some feel that cold hand on their shoulder, see that blurred face too close, feel their heart seize in their chest as the entity feeds on their terror. The trail looks safe in daylight, normal, inviting even, with its scenic river views and peaceful wooded sections. But at dawn, when the light is uncertain and the world is caught between darkness and day, something else runs that trail, and it's always hunting.